This is a quick video to get you thinking about the public policy paper that's coming up. So you'll be writing two policy papers this semester, and the first one is due on November 8th. That may seem like it's a far ways away, but it'll be here before you know it. And to help you get started on working on your policy paper, you will be completing a preliminary worksheet that allows you to get thinking about what topic you want to explore in your policy paper, gets you thinking about some of the resources that you're going to use, etc. And so that policy worksheet is due on October 18th. I want to encourage you that before you complete the policy paper worksheet, you please review the policy paper assignment on Canvas. We actually made some clarifications to it since the beginning of the semester. As I was getting ready to, do this video, I was looking at the policy paper assignment and I was like, that could be a little bit more clear. So make sure that even if you looked at it at the beginning of the semester, take a look at it again before you complete your preliminary worksheet. So what is a policy paper? A policy paper is a persuasive case for adopting a policy that addresses a specific issue. It's not a straight up research paper. When you do a research paper, you're not really taking a position on the research that you're doing. Research papers are oftentimes descriptive. What this is, it's more in line with what would be called a persuasive research paper. That you are doing research, but you're using research in order to make a case, okay? To persuade your reader of adopting a particular policy. Okay, So there are different components of the policy paper, and this is just a quick overview. This is all on Canvas. But the first thing that you do is you describe the public policy issue that you're interested in, okay? And so, as you're preparing for this paper, you're going to want to think, like, what am I interested in researching? Am I interested in the wage gap? Am I interested in legalizing prostitution? Am I interested in abortion policy? Am I interested in paid family leave, etc.? And so the first thing you're gonna do in your paper is you're going to describe the policy issue you're interested in, and explain why you're interested in it, why this is an important issue that needs to be addressed. Now, keep in mind the policy issue has to deal with sex and gender, okay? Now, some policy issues are really easy to achieve that goal, right? So paid family leave deals with, families, right? Children, reproduction, that's a gender topic. Dealing with, legalized sex work or the gender pay gap. I mean, those are obviously related to the issue of sex and gender. But other issues may seem not directly related to sex and gender. But so if there's a policy topic you want to work on, you're like, I'm not exactly sure if this relates to sex and gender, reach out to me because I could maybe help you with that. So for example, in years past, I've had students who are like, I'm really interested in mass incarceration, but mass incarceration, how does that relate to sex and gender? Well, recent research has come out from the University of Milwaukee, as a matter of fact, that shows that mass incarceration has a disproportionate effect on LGBTQ plus individuals, right? So there's a lot of times you can take a public policy that you're interested in and that it might not seem directly related to sex and gender, but we can sort of like craft it so that there is a sex gender connection. So reach out if there's a topic like that you would like to explore. So an example of a public policy issue you might be interested in is paid family leave. Okay, so I just put that up there as an example. The next component of the public policy or the policy paper is that you describe the policy that's currently in place. Okay. And so if you're interested in, for example, the issue of paid family leave, you might want to look at what policy is in place. And in this section, that you would provide a brief overview of the existing policy, but also, provide an overview of some of the key historical and legislative moments that brought about this existing policy. And then also that you're going to explain why you think this current policy is ineffective, where it falls short, and why change is needed. So for an example, for this component is that, the existing family leave policy is known as the Family Medical Leave Act, and that you could argue that it is ineffective. Why? Because it doesn't provide paid family leave, and also not all places of employment are subject to the Family Medical Leave Act. Okay, but that's just an example of the existing policy. The next components of the policy paper are to identify and describe two alternatives to the current policy. If you think that obviously you're saying the current policy that's in place is ineffective and needs improvement, then you're going to want to come up with two options for public policy to replace the existing policy. And then after you describe these alternatives to current policy, then you're going to want to evaluate these alternatives. In other words, you're going to want to identify what the strengths and weaknesses of each of your policy alternatives are. So, for example, there are a lot of places that you can look for alternative public policies. You could look to other countries and say, hey, how does another country address the issue of paid family leave? You could look at states and say, hey, the Family Medical Leave Act is the federal program. How have states taken a different approach to paid leave? You could also look at corporations, and you could also explore policy institutes, think tanks that are dedicated to exploring policy alternatives to existing policy. So right there, I just had the example of you say, okay, here's two alternative policies to the current policy. Plan A from California, Plan B from Sweden. And then the final component of the policy paper is to make a recommendation. Of the two policy alternatives that you present, you're going to want to recommend one of the two alternatives to your audience and make a rationale for why they should support the plan that you have selected. Okay. Now, there's a lot more on Canvas that goes into a little bit more detail about these different components, but I just wanted to, make sure that you get a sense of what the components are as you're moving into the process of planning to write this paper. So how do you get started for the public policy paper? Well, you'll want to check out on the Canvas site, the section in the policy paper assignment. There's a whole section that says how to get started, right? So some of it is brainstorming. You can meet with librarians at both UW at Waukesha and at Washington County. They can help you kind of generate ideas. I'm here as a resource, so you can, come to office hours or set up a meeting or email me. I can help you generate ideas as well. So take a look at that, and probably the best way to get started on the public policy paper is to complete the preliminary assignment worksheet, okay? The assignment worksheet is designed to basically say, okay, what policy issue are you going to be exploring? Like, why are you interested in this, this issue area? What's the existing policy, etc. So it gets you, kind of jump starts you on that. It's due on Tuesday, October 18th. You'll get feedback very quickly from me on that policy worksheet so that I can give you feedback and move you in the right direction. Also on the worksheet, you're going to be starting to select the resources, the references that you're going to be used as you're doing your research. Okay, so that's it. Hopefully you found this to be helpful. And if you have any questions, come to office hours, drop me an email, a text, and I'd be more than happy to answer them. See you later.